"The restaurant is losing money. We need to shut it down." My brother's words hit me like a slap, sharp and sudden. He didn't hesitate, didn't soften his tone, didn't even look guilty. He just stood there with his arms crossed, as if the decision had already been made long before this conversation. I laughed nervously at first, thinking he was joking. This restaurant had been full just last weekend. The tables were occupied, the kitchen was alive with noise, and customers were complimenting the food like always. How could it suddenly be losing money? I asked him what he meant. He sighed dramatically and said he had been checking the accounts for months. According to him, expenses were rising, profits were disappearing, and we were on the edge of complete failure. Every sentence felt rehearsed, like he had practiced it in front of a mirror. As he spoke, my eyes wandered around the restaurant. The familiar wooden tables, the handwritten menu board, the framed photo of our father smiling proudly on opening day. This place wasn't just bricks and walls, it was built from memories, sacrifices, and promises I had made to myself. I wanted to argue, to demand proof, to fight back. But he was my brother, the person who had grown up eating at the same table, dreaming the same dreams. I swallowed my doubts and nodded slowly, not knowing that in that exact moment, my trust was being used against me. That night, I couldn't sleep. My brother's words kept replaying in my head again and again. Losing money. Shut it down. The ceiling fan spun above me, but my thoughts were louder than its noise. Something felt off, but I kept telling myself I was overthinking. The next morning, I asked him to show me the financial records. He frowned, clearly annoyed, and said everything was already handled. "Why torture yourself with numbers you won't understand?" he said lightly, as if he were doing me a favor. That sentence stung more than I expected. I reminded him that this restaurant was as much mine as his, actually, more mine. I was the one who stayed late, tasted every dish, fixed problems, and listened to customers. He finally agreed but delayed it again, saying the accountant was busy and the files were incomplete. Days passed. Every time I brought it up, he had a new excuse. Meanwhile, he kept pushing the same conclusion. Close it before it gets worse. His urgency felt strange, almost desperate. But my fear of failure was stronger than my suspicion. Deep down, a quiet voice warned me not to sign anything, not to walk away so easily. But I ignored it. I didn't realize that while I was doubting myself, my brother was already planning his future, without me in it. The final decision didn't come with shouting or drama. It came quietly, almost cruelly calm. My brother placed the papers in front of me and said, "This is the smartest move. Walk away before you drown." My hands shook as I picked up the pen. I read the words, but they blurred together. All I could think about was our father, how he used to stand in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, smiling proudly while tasting the food. He used to say this restaurant would protect our future. Now I was about to sign it away. When I hesitated, my brother leaned closer. "I'm doing this for you," he said softly. "I don't want to see you suffer." His voice sounded caring, almost convincing. I believed him, because I wanted to. The day we shut the restaurant down felt unreal. The staff stood silently as we told them the news. Some of them cried. Others just stared at the floor. These were people who had worked with us for years. People who treated this place like home. That night, I stayed behind alone. I walked between the empty tables, ran my fingers across the counter, and inhaled the smell of spices one last time. I turned off the lights, locked the door, and rested my forehead against the glass. I didn't know it then, but that lock didn't just close a restaurant. It closed a chapter of my life, one that had been stolen from me. Life after the restaurant felt empty. My days lost their rhythm, and my nights were filled with regret. I took a small job just to survive, but every time I smelled food or heard the clatter of dishes, my chest tightened. It felt like someone had ripped away a piece of who I was. One evening, during a late shift, I overheard two customers talking behind me. They were excited, laughing about a new restaurant downtown that everyone was lining up to try. They praised the food, saying it tasted exactly like the old place that had suddenly shut down. That sentence made my heart skip. Exactly like the old place. I tried to ignore it, but curiosity refused to let me rest. After my shift ended, I looked it up on my phone. The photos froze me in place. The plating was identical. The dishes had the same names, just slightly changed. Even the color of the walls felt familiar. A cold realization crept over me. This wasn't inspiration. This was theft. As I scrolled further, I saw a familiar face in one of the pictures, standing confidently near the counter, smiling for the camera. My brother. In that moment, every excuse he had given me collapsed. The sleepless nights, the rushed signatures, the lies about losses, it all started to make sense. My hands clenched into fists as anger replaced the sadness I had been carrying for weeks. I didn't cry this time. I knew then that the restaurant hadn't failed. I had been betrayed. I went there the very next night. I didn't plan what I would say. I just knew I had to see it with my own eyes. The lights outside the restaurant glowed brightly, the same warm glow we had once chosen together. Customers waited in line, laughing, excited. It felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. When I stepped inside, my breath caught. The layout was almost identical. The counter, the open kitchen, even the way the staff moved, it was all too familiar. I could smell the food, my food, the recipes I had perfected over years. And then I saw him. My brother stood behind the counter, confident and relaxed, accepting compliments like he deserved them. For a moment, I froze, watching him live the life he told me was impossible. I walked straight up to him. So this is what shutting down looks like, I said quietly. His smile faded for half a second, just enough to confirm everything. He stepped outside with me, irritation written all over his face. I demanded the truth. No more stories. No more lies. He exhaled slowly and said, "You were too emotional. I did what had to be done." No apology. No shame. That was the moment something inside me broke, and something else was born. The sadness turned into clarity. I realized I wasn't weak for trusting him. He was weak for betraying me. As I walked away, I made a promise to myself. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of my comeback. That night, I didn't go home. I walked the streets for hours, replaying every moment in my head. Every warning sign I had ignored. Every time I chose trust over logic. The betrayal didn't just hurt. It embarrassed me. I felt foolish for believing him so easily. But somewhere between the anger and the exhaustion, my tears dried. I stopped seeing myself as a victim and started seeing the pattern. He hadn't beaten me with strength. He had beaten me with lies. The next morning, I called our old accountant. My voice shook as I explained everything. There was a long pause on the other end of the line before he said something that changed everything. The restaurant was never losing money. Those words hit harder than any insult. The profits had been steady. Some months were better than others, but there was no crisis. The numbers my brother showed me had been carefully twisted. I gathered bank statements, invoices, and old emails. Each document was another piece of the truth. With every page, my fear faded and my confidence returned. Knowledge gave me power. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. For the first time since the doors closed, I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I finally knew one thing for sure. He had underestimated me. Armed with the truth, I stepped into a world I never thought I'd enter. Lawyers, courtrooms, and cold, formal conversations. Filing the case against my own brother felt unreal. My hands trembled as I signed the papers, not from fear, but from the weight of what this meant. Blood didn't protect him anymore. Word spread quickly. People in the industry started whispering. Former staff called me, confused and angry after learning what had really happened. Some apologized for leaving. Others promised to stand by me if I needed them. For the first time in months, I wasn't alone. My brother tried to contact me. Calls, messages, even emotional voicemails where he played the victim. I didn't respond. Silence became my strength. Letting the truth speak for itself felt more powerful than any argument. In court, the evidence stacked up neatly. The altered records, the hidden transactions, the timeline that proved the shutdown was never necessary. I watched my brother's confidence crumble as the judge asked questions he couldn't answer. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my name, my work, and my father's legacy. And as the case moved forward, I could feel the balance slowly shifting, back in my favor. The weeks that followed were heavy, but different. This time, the weight wasn't hopelessness, it was anticipation. Every court date peeled away another layer of lies. Each hearing revealed details my brother never thought would come to light. Former employees testified. Suppliers confirmed late payments that were blamed on losses but never truly existed. The accountant explained how the numbers had been manipulated so carefully that only someone with inside access could have done it. I sat there quietly, listening. I didn't need to speak much. The truth was finally doing the talking for me. Outside the courtroom, rumors turned into headlines. People who once praised my brother's business skills began to question his integrity. The same confidence he had worn so proudly now looked forced, fragile. One afternoon, as we walked out after a particularly strong hearing, he looked at me, not with anger, but with fear. He finally understood that this wasn't something he could talk his way out of. That was the moment I knew the outcome was inevitable. No matter how long it took, justice was already on its way. The courtroom was silent when the judge returned. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. I kept my eyes forward, steady, refusing to look at my brother. I had spent months preparing for this moment, yet nothing could truly prepare me for how heavy it felt. The verdict was clear. The court ruled in my favor. The judge spoke about deception, abuse of trust, and unlawful transfer of assets. Each word landed like a final nail in the coffin of the lies that had destroyed my life. My brother's face drained of color. The confident man who once told me I was too emotional now looked small and exposed. The restaurant was ordered to be returned to me, along with compensation for the losses I had suffered. More importantly, his actions were now part of public record. There was no hiding behind family anymore. As people began to leave, he tried to speak to me. His voice cracked, asking for forgiveness, blaming pressure, fear, anything but himself. I listened quietly, then walked past him without answering. Justice didn't feel loud or celebratory. It felt calm. It felt final. The day I reopened the restaurant, the door felt heavier in my hands than it ever had before. Not because of fear, but because of everything it had survived. I stood there for a moment, breathing in, remembering who I was when this place first began, and who I had become since losing it. One by one, the old staff returned. Some hugged me, some cried. The kitchen slowly came back to life, filled with familiar sounds and smells. This time, it wasn't just a business reopening, it was a promise being kept. I changed a few things. New systems, clear boundaries, no blind trust. But the heart of the restaurant stayed the same. My father's photo still hung on the wall, watching quietly, proudly. As for my brother, we don't speak anymore. I don't wish him harm, but I don't leave the door open for betrayal twice. Family, I learned, isn't defined by blood, it's defined by loyalty. That night, when the first customer smiled and said, "It's good to have this place back," I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The restaurant didn't just survive. Neither did I. We both came back stronger.